The ticket number 12 is in. Let us go back to New York.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Cover One, the podcast. I am Russell Brown, and this is episode number 40. I believe this is maybe the 12th or 13th episode that I've been a part of with Cover One, the podcast, that since I've been taking over and doing the NFL draft stuff. And I've got kind of an action-packed day for you with this podcast. Looking to go maybe 30, 35 minutes. I've got an interview with Devron Davis, the cornerback out of UTSA, later today. We're going to talk about some of the breaking news right now regarding the NFL draft with Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen. But before we get into that, I need to let you know Cover One, the podcast, is brought to you by First Down Playbook. First Down Playbook is the number one playbook resource for football coaches with over 30,000 plays. First Down Playbook is a database of youth, high school, and flag football plays, color-coded with coaching points for every position on every play. Check it out today at firstdownplaybook.com. First Down Playbook, one place, all the football. So like I said, got some breaking news with Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen. They're both declaring for the NFL draft. They have made that official. So that's big news for all of us. And I truthfully don't really know how to take that in yet, because it's the fact that Josh Rosen, the most pro-ready quarterback in this year's draft, the way it's looking with Sam Darnold behind him, Josh Allen, Baker Mayfield, potentially Lamar Jackson, Ryan Finley potentially as well. So he looks like right now the number one guy on the board. Odds are, the way it's turned out, he's probably going to be my number one quarterback with all the film that I've watched on Rosen, Jackson, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, and just realistically, I think Josh Rosen is a guy that teams are going to value very, very high. As for Sam Darnold, I think he's another guy that's going to get valued very, very high. But do I think he's pro-ready? No. Do I think he should have stayed another year? Absolutely. But I get it. You are a top 10 pick considerably across the board, and you're going to go after and get that opportunity to become that type of pick. Does he want to be number one? Absolutely. What person doesn't want to be the number one pick, you know? But it's just very interesting to me to see both of these guys do it minutes apart, declaring for the draft. That's when they declared it on Twitter and things like that, saying they're going pro. They thank their school, their coaches, their parents, all that good stuff. So if I had to choose right now, Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen, I would be going Josh Rosen if I was an organization. But that doesn't mean you have to be low on Sam Darnold because I'm a little bit more high on Josh Rosen. I think we are in a position where we could see Sam Darnold and Josh Rosen both go 1 and 2, where we could see the Cleveland Browns potentially go after another quarterback. This time, though, it would be the number one pick in the draft. And then we could see the New York Giants potentially go after a guy, whether that's Sam Darnold or Josh Rosen. Personally, I think the New York Giants would be smart to maybe pass on a quarterback if Josh Rosen's off the board and see what happens in the second round. But furthermore, just roll with Eli Manning for another year and kind of see where it goes. Mike Francesa is a broadcaster, or was a broadcaster for WFAN, The Fan in New York. A great show. I used to listen to it actually relatively regularly. Because I was a big fan of his, and he was a person that I used to see on TV talking football and sports, and I was just kind of amazed. I was like, wow, this guy's from New York. He's awesome. He's got the whole, New York accent that they have, that type of drawl that they have out of New York. But I was just amazed as a kid, and I kind of kept with it as I got older. And Francesa's a guy that just recently retired, but he was on Bill Simmons' podcast recently, and he had spoken about the New York Giants and some of their plans, and the fact that it sounds like they are considering Dave Gettleman at general manager. They went ahead and they did that. And this was before, all of that was made official. So they went ahead and they did that. Some things he also was hearing at number 2 was potentially that they wouldn't be going quarterback at number 2 for the New York Giants. They would be looking to do something different and potentially looking at another position. What that could be, Saquon Barkley very well could be an opportunity for them to draft a big-time playmaker on offense to run the ball more consistently for them. It would be a very nice pairing with him, Sterling Shepard, OBJ, Evan Ingram. So there's obviously a lot of things that the Giants could do, and there was also a talk of Mike Francesa talking about how they could be really assessing their offensive line moving forward. How they do that, probably free agency a little bit, probably in this draft. That doesn't necessarily mean they go Orlando Brown from Oklahoma, the offensive tackle, or Connor Williams from Texas, or Mike McGlinchey from Notre Dame. So there's obviously a couple of names that they could be looking into to go at number 2. But really what it boils down to, and I think is obviously the big deciding factor for the Giants, the Colts, and everybody else behind that, is what do the Browns do at number 1? And I think at this point, I personally, if I'm in charge, if I'm John Dorsey, I'm thinking, hey, you know what? We've got the 4th overall pick. If we don't take a quarterback at number 1, and we value a guy like Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, and let's say Josh Allen, all the same. Maybe one is a little bit higher than the other. Let's say Rosen. Let's say they don't go out and they get Rosen, and they pass and they get Saquon Barkley. Well, odds are they're going to get one of the other guys, whether that's Darnold or Josh Allen, and potentially even Baker Mayfield. And maybe Baker Mayfield is the guy to have. Who knows? But I think Cleveland's in a very interesting spot at the quarterback position. It's a position that, you know what, if they go quarterback number 1 and they get the wrong guy, they're going to be a laughing stock for picking the wrong guy. If they pass on a quarterback at number 1, they are going to get scrutinized for not taking a quarterback. So really, if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, you're pulling your hair out right now because you thought for a long time here, because there was a lot of reports saying Sam Darnold and Lamar Jackson would be 2 guys that would be looking to potentially stay in school another year. Well, now Sam Darnold's going pro. We could very well see Lamar Jackson go pro, and he could be a guy that falls into the 2nd round now and potentially, turns into a pretty good pro quarterback. But if the Browns take a guy at number 1, I mean, this, and it's a quarterback, this is going to be where they pull their hair out. And it's going to be a crazy process. And I feel bad for Browns fans because of that simple fact that it looked like they could be in a position to get 2 really good players within the top 5 of this draft. And now it looks like they could be damned if they do, damned if they don't for a decision that they make at number 1, because it could kind of shape what happens at 2 and 3, because the Colts are in a position where they could easily trade back. They have Andrew Luck. It sounds like he'll be back next year. They could potentially trade back from number 3 to, let's say, number 6, where you see a team like the New York Jets, they want to get a quarterback, they move up ahead of Denver and Cleveland, and then they get their guy at number 3. And you could potentially see something like that. So there's going to be a ton of different draft scenarios, and it really sounds just like gibberish right now with me because I just kind of am spewing a bunch of random stuff out at you. But there's just, the news that just recently broke, it's kind of just all in my head right now, and I'm thinking like, man, sounds like they could go quarterback at number 1 or number 4. Probably would move on from Deshaun Kaiser. Where would he go? Maybe he would go to a team like Arizona and get traded. Or maybe he gets traded to a team like, I don't know, the New York Giants or the New York Jets. Who knows where Deshaun Kaiser goes now if they go quarterback in Cleveland. So I'm really curious as to how this whole thing unfolds. If I were them, I would be going Saquon Barkley. I'd be waiting to see what quarterback's available at number 4 if I wanted to go in that direction. Or I would potentially just take a defensive player, maybe a Minkah Fitzpatrick, maybe a Roquan Smith, and kind of build up my defense a little bit. Maybe I even take a Maurice Hurst, who really knows, or Bradley Chubb if he's there. But realistically, I'd be building up my team and putting a lot of talent around it and seeing what I can do with Deshaun Kaiser in year 2. Because let's be honest, you have Hugh Jackson, and it doesn't sound like he's the biggest fan of Deshaun Kaiser, but odds are if Hugh Jackson doesn't make it work with Deshaun Kaiser, and he doesn't make it work with the next guy, odds are he's going to be gone. And then you've got another coach you're going to get a new coach with a new regime, a new coaching staff, a new system, a new scheme, a new everything for now would be a second-year quarterback, and whether it be Darnold, Rosen, Allen, whoever, or it could potentially be somebody like Deshaun Kaiser who would be entering year 3 with now a new scheme, a new coach, and all that other stuff. So it's just very interesting. In Cleveland, they've kind of got their hands tied, and they've really got to make some good decisions. It sounds like John Dorsey could be the right guy for the job to steer that ship. But I'll tell you, Cleveland, they've messed up so many things in the past. It's very interesting to see how it's going to unfold. But Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, it's big news for the quarterback board of everything. I think it makes the quarterback class a little bit stronger. Personally, I like Josh Rosen over Sam Darnold. I think the mechanics, some of the issues, technique-wise with Sam Darnold, just are things that, in my personal opinion of me, I just don't know if it can be fixed. Maybe it can, and if it is, this might blow up in my face for what I'm saying. But personally, I don't see how it's fixable at this point unless you get the right guy with the right staff. And that's one of those things where not every pick gets right with the right staff and the right coaching, the right coaches and the right scheme and all those things. That doesn't always happen. So, and if it was, 256 draft picks would be working out every single year, but that's just not the case. Sam Darnold's one of those guys that has to go to the right place, and I don't necessarily think Cleveland is the right spot for him. New York, that might work. Somewhere like the Giants where he could sit behind Eli for a year, that would make sense. Cleveland, going Rosen at 1, Sam Darnold at 2, that would make sense a little bit. But Sam Darnold going to Cleveland and starting right away just doesn't make sense to me. So if I'm Cleveland, if I know I'm going quarterback, I'm taking Josh Rosen number 1. If I don't know what quarterback I want and I want to see what happens, I'm going Saquon Barkley number 1, and then I'm letting the draft unfold. But with that breaking news of Sam Darnold, Josh Rosen, it really shakes the top 5 of the draft, the top 10 of the draft, and it certainly sounds like we're going to see 4 quarterbacks taken within the top 15 of this NFL draft between Mayfield, Allen, Darnold, and Rosen. No matter where you have them overall on your board, no matter where you have them as far as first and second round grades, these guys are quarterbacks. They're high valued. Quarterbacks get the most money out of any position in the league. They're going to go within the top 15, whether we like that or not. So it's going to be interesting. I can't wait to see how it unfolds. But we've got, 4 months into the NFL draft? Almost 5 months. We're just under 5 months to go into the NFL draft. So it's going to be interesting to see. But I've got some other breaking news for you. Here at Cover One, the podcast, and cover1.net, we are going to have 4 representatives at the Senior Bowl. It's going to be John, Eric, Dan, and myself. We are going to be down at the Senior Bowl in Mobile, Alabama in about 3 weeks, and we're going to be representing Cover One. We will probably do a couple of podcasts down there. We are going to be talking a ton of football, a ton of NFL draft content, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's my first time down in Mobile. It's going to be my first time at the Senior Bowl and being a part of those practices and everything else. So it's looking like it's going to be a fantastic event in practices and game, and it's just going to be awesome to really be a part of. And some of the Senior Bowl invites that we're seeing is, Marcus Allen from Penn State, the safety, wide receiver, Marcel Aitman out of Oklahoma State. He's about 6'4", 220, big-time receiver. I think he's got a lot of upside to him. Kalen Ballage, running back out of Arizona State. Devin Bellamy, outside linebacker out of Georgia. He's 6'5", 245. I'm a big fan of his. We're going to see Baker Mayfield there. We could potentially see Josh Allen there. So there's going to be a ton of talent at the Senior Bowl. It's something that you are going to want to pay attention to, and it's something that you're going to want to follow us on, whether it's Twitter or everything else, and really paying attention to, because we're going to be throwing out a ton of content, whether it's scouting notes on players, some predictions, and just NFL draft articles and hot takes and things like that. But also we're going to have a ton of coverage down at the Senior Bowl. So don't miss it. Remember, check it out at cover1.net. And as this episode is kind of just the breaking news episode, if you will, we're breaking some news on the draft, some, with Darnold and Rosen, and getting into some of the Senior Bowl stuff and announcing that, we're going to be down there representing Cover One. It's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to be jumping into an interview here with Devron Davis, the cornerback out of UTSA, the very first player interview. And this is probably going to be the first of 2 podcast episodes this week. I look to bring one this weekend. And as we get closer to the draft, I'm going to bring out some more podcast episodes and kind of turn up the volume a little bit for everybody that listens to the podcast, because there's so much information and I can only talk to myself for so long for 30, 35 minutes. And that's why I'm bringing on player interviews. I'm going to start doing some live video breakdowns on the air, probably going to put those on YouTube. It's going to be a lot of fun. And then I'm going to get out into the draft community, get with some evaluators and scouts and kind of pick their brain a little bit and see what they're hearing. And just going to be a ton of fun. So before we jump into this interview with Devron, I want to tell you Grandstand Sports Network is proud to announce our partnership with Crossover. Crossover wants to help you scout smarter and win more games, coaches and scouts alike. They'll do advanced analysis on your ODK, offense, defense, and kicking on your film for you, give back interactive tendency reports, searchable clips, and advanced statistics in just 12 hours. Stop wasting time in the film room doing all of that tedious prep work. Simply log in and start getting powerful analysis straight from your video. Their new Insights feature will automatically give you a scouting report on your opponents, broken down by down and distance, field position, specific players, and several other filters, something you're not going to get with Huddle or anybody else. The only way you can sign up is by going to crossover.com/grandstand to receive one free game. That's crossover.com/grandstand to get one free game. So be sure to check it out at crossover.com. All right, guys, and joining me now here on Cover One, the podcast, the very first player interview that we're doing on the podcast is Devron Davis, cornerback out of UTSA. Devron, how we doing, man?
Man, I'm doing good. Just got back from Proactive Gym, got a little work in, and happy to be on. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. It's a privilege. It's an honor to be able to speak with a college athlete that is as talented as you are. Definitely under the radar type of player, but all the skill set is there for you, man. And looking forward to seeing you grow moving forward and entering the draft process. How's that process been?
It's been great, man. You say it's been up and down. I ain't really been garnered attention to some of the Power 5 guys that we all know. They're gonna get that, and that's fine. I'm a guy that's gritty and gonna keep showing why I'm the best player, best corner in the draft, and just keep showing my skill sets and things that I do well that some guys may not do as well.
Absolutely. So, playing football, obviously a very physical sport, very grueling type of sport. It's definitely not something that some guys can just pick up overnight. Maybe you were one of those guys that didn't start playing until your senior year, but I mean, looking back at some of your, high school profile and things like that, looks like you had played quite a while. I mean, how long have you been playing, football?
Well, it's crazy that you ask. I've been only playing football since my freshman year. I'm real raw. A little bit. I think I got a lot of instincts because of who I grew up around and who my family is. Vontae Davis, Vernon Davis, my cousin Steven Nelson, he also plays for the Chiefs. And then my dad went to Florida State in '95 and played with Deion Sanders and all those guys. So, my skill set and instincts and all those things that really come from them. But I started very old, as you can say. Usually guys start in Pop Warner or middle school. I started my freshman year in high school.
Right. And why did you start playing football? Just because, or was it just something you wanted to do?
I just seen Vontae play. I always seen my dad a little bit, seen a little bit of Steve, but he was younger. But I seen Vontae play at Illinois, and I was just like, oh, my God, like I want to be like him, like. So much, I try to model everything he did, and he just, he is one of the main reasons why I started playing football.
Absolutely. Well, hopefully you can maybe link up with him in Indy, and you guys could be a duo out there, huh?
Man, I think he'd probably be surprised by that, honestly, to be honest. We wouldn't know who the best Davis is, but shoot, I'm gonna always say I'm better than him.
I was going to say, man, quit lying. You know it's you. Come on now. I'm just kidding. Yeah. He's
if
very
talented
player.
If he had something to say about it, he probably wouldn't say the same thing. But that's all competition.
Right. Nothing wrong with being competitive. So what do you like about football? I mean, what makes you wake up and when you play it and everything on Saturdays, what drives you to like playing it?
It's so many things, man. I get up, I eat, sleep, and drink football, man. If it's on TV, if I can watch film, or whether it's watching YouTube videos, man, I just love the game of football to the highest extent. I love competing, the physical nature of it, just everything, just being a warrior out there and, going to battle with some of the guys, you're going to be friends with and make relationships for the rest of your life with. So it's just that beautiful competitive nature of football that, I made most of my friends from playing football. And not only that, I just love competing against the highest level, against everybody. It's a beautiful thing, man.
Absolutely. And, you were a guy that you had played some junior college, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. And now you had originally, from what I was reading, it sounded like you had gone on to initially you were going to play at Colorado State and then you changed it to UTSA. What made you change that commitment?
Well, initially I was going to Louisville. I committed to Louisville. Coach Petrino and all those guys were really good people and stuff like that. Made some good relationships. And then second was going to be UCLA. Coach Meach I loved him, man. Just how he preached he fours up and all those things. That was beautiful. And it was in Cali, so it was a good situation. But it was just those two, Colorado State and it was LSU, Frank Wilson at LSU, where UTSA came into the picture. Because, I didn't never have an offer from them until the fall came, until Coach Wilson got there. And, Colorado State, Coach Terry Fair, he's seen a lot of things in me from similar to when he was a player. And he fell in love with me and we made a close relationship and all those things. And, I wanted to go to Colorado State because of Coach Bobo and all those guys were so nice and, good people. And, when my mom got sick, I was scared, I didn't know what to do. And, that they said the best thing probably was to get a release. They didn't want to let me go at all. I was the highest recruit on their board. I was a guy that they had seen a lot of promise in. And, it was a sad situation on both parts. And, I'm glad to see the that's over there and some heading to Tennessee and all that stuff. So it's good. It's no hard feelings. When I see them, it all be love.
Exactly.
And stuff like that. And then Coach Wilson, man, he was on me at LSU. He was one of the best recruiters. He had Odell, he had Tyrann Mathieu, and had Jarvis Landry. He was the one recruiting all those guys, Leonard, and just all those guys, getting them to come to LSU. So, he has an eye for talent, and, he saw a lot of me early, and he wanted me to come play for him. So that's what I did, and we built a great relationship just over the whole recruiting process, whether it was, come watch the game or come on an official or any of those things. He was just always so encouraging, and he made me feel like he was my father figure at times. So.
That's awesome, man. It's unfortunate, you had to kind of pass on some offers because of some things, but it's fantastic that you wanted to be close with your mom, even though, she's getting sick and things like that. I mean, that's very courageous of you, man. A lot of guys, I don't know if they would pass on some of those opportunities, but it looks like it's going to work out for you in the end anyways,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think, and the thing I really didn't explain, me and my mom, we kind of grew up rough. It was just, I was always bouncing from house to house or shelter to shelter. So it was kind of, a rocky situation. That's why I didn't academically qualify out of high school, because I had Cal, Arizona, and San Diego State, and I was going to end up committing to Cal and going there, and they wanted me to play corner there. Just couldn't academically qualify. And then the second go-round, I missed it by one class. As you know, JUCO, if you go in Power 5, they want you out in the spring so you can do spring training and stuff like that. Yep. So it's always some loopholes and crazy things that happen. But, everything happens for a reason.
Yep, absolutely. And, at UTSA, you were a very talented player. I mean, just looking at it statistically, you're a physical player. You've had over 50 tackles the last 2 years. You had, 2 interceptions this past year?
Yeah.
You had a pick 6 there, 11 pass deflections off of Sports Reference. So, I think statistically and just your style, I think it fits for, what teams are looking for a college cornerback coming into the pros. You might be a little bit raw, maybe haven't been playing since Pop Warner, but I think you're still a very talented individual who's got a tremendous amount of upside. And I think you're a draftable player, to be honest. Out of the teams, obviously you want to be drafted by anybody, but is there like a specific team that you would just love to play for?
Um, I really don't got no specific team. Just to be in the NFL in general would be a dream come true. I get to compete at the highest level against any guys. So that's just good enough for me. Just being able to compete and
Mhm.
play at the highest level. And the most intriguing thing about me, I didn't start playing corner until my junior year. Like I was always a running back. I mean, my freshman year in JUCO, that's when got moved to corner. I
Mhm.
was always a punt returner, a kick returner, a receiver, and then I played safety in high school. And then when I got to junior college, they moved me to corner. I was still a punt returner, still a kick returner, stuff like that. But that's I always been pretty much an offensive player. Then got moved over there, so that's
Now,
crazy.
do you like playing the offensive side of the football more or playing on the defensive side of the football more?
Oh, it's no question. Defense it's something about playing defense. It's something about competing. If you get beat, it's on you. You ain't got to really depend on an old lineman to block for you as good, or you ain't got to make so much happen by yourself or as a team. So it's like more offense is more. You need offensive linemen, you need a quarterback, you need everything to do certain things. Defense is you out there yourself, so you can't blame anybody for anything. So.
Absolutely.
I just
Now,
like
now, I'm sure there's a quarterback out there that when you watch on Sundays, you're like, man, I would just love to intercept a pass from him. Who would that cornerback be or that quarterback be?
I think everybody in the building knows this one. Tom Brady, that's the GOAT. You wanna get him before he leaves. But if he wasn't there, I think Aaron Rodgers, man, that's a guy that is just at a high level, Hall of Fame caliber quarterback, and can be considered the best to ever do it if he keeps playing and keeps dominating at a high level. So
Hmm.
those two guys are very intriguing for me.
Absolutely. Now, when you watch, I'm sure you're watching pro tape, college tape all the time. Like you said, you live, breathe, eat, sleep football. Is there a defensive back, or whether it's a corner or a safety, that you watch that you try to replicate your playing style off of?
I think I done heard this a million times about me, and a guy that people can say they'll remind them of, and it's Champ Bailey. Champ Bailey is a guy that I really think I'm very similar to, in some ways. And I just I like how he was. He was an overall good player. He was there and around support. He was very crafty in coverage, had very good technique. He used his eyes instead of more of his hands and stuff like that. So he was very polished and he was very athletic as well. So that was a guy that I really look at and model myself after.
That I can actually see that, to be honest. I mean, I watched some of your tape over the last couple weeks and paying attention to some of the things you do. I can see it, a little bit of a raw version of them, but I can definitely see it. You're a physical player. I like that. What would you say is one of your biggest strengths as a football player?
Ball skills. I think I mentioned just how I used to play offense and I used to be a punt returner, and I still can be. I think that's something I'm gonna show the college gridiron showcase, catching punts and just showing how I can, be an electric player. I think at UTSA they needed me so much to play corner, and I had to cover the best guy, whether he was in the slot, whether I had to go to safety sometimes. So they always knew me around the field so much that they didn't want to burn me out so much. So, I still think I'm a very dynamic punt returner and can make things happen on punt return and kick return. And, I just always been that kind of player. So I think ball skills, I feel like I can track the ball anywhere. And that's something I was always good at.
All right, cool. Now, what's the biggest weakness that you have
Um,
that you
you know,
think?
I think you can always get better at technique. I think technique can be one of the things that you can always get better at. I don't think I really have a lot of weaknesses. I
Mhm.
think just technique and being a little bit looser. I mean, obviously every corner needs to be as loose as possible. So just that being looser and technique.
Yeah. Now, when you get to play on Sundays, who's the one receiver that you want to match up against? I mean, obviously you probably want to match up against a ton, but who's the one guy that you want to match up with, and then we're watching Sports Center, we see the highlights, we see you matched up on this guy. Who's the guy?
Antonio Brown. I think he's been dominating a lot of corners in this league and just getting in their head and stuff like that. And I think that's a guy who's emerged as the best receiver in the game. And Julio's not far behind, or Odell, or any of those guys. But Antonio Brown is exactly who I want. I want to be on him one-on-one. I don't need any help or anything like that. That's just my style. And that's how I've always been, and that's what I was at UTSA. I was a guy that matched up one-on-one. And there would be sometimes that we, had bracket coverage or something because of a formation. But 9 times out of 10, if I was press man, I was one-on-one. And, not a lot of guys were successful. I didn't give up any touchdowns while I was at UTSA, so it's another thing. So
yeah, I mean, out of your tape that I watched, and don't take anything the wrong way when I say weaknesses or anything, I thought, like you said, you need to be a little bit looser. I thought you flipping your hips, you looked a little stiff at times. I thought, okay, he needs to get a little bit better at that. That will come with time. But I thought the biggest strength that you had, other than closing speed and coming up and making a tackle, I thought it was playing man coverage, press to press, because you're just a physical guy, and receivers are going to line up against you, and they're going to be like, oh, who's this rookie, Devron Davis? I'm going to be fine against this guy. And then, man, that first series, it's going to change the way that they view you. I think when you get to the next level, you're just a physical player, man. And if I'm lining up against you, you're going to be a pain in my neck, man, all game long. And I think that's a style that you just need to keep having, moving forward with. I think athletically, you're going to get faster. You're going to get stronger. But that physical nature can go away. You can't let it go away because you're so talented there. And I love seeing the man coverage that I see on tape. But what separates you from some of the other cornerbacks in this draft?
I think I'm the most versatile guy. You always have one guy that can pretty much do it all, and I think I'm probably the most versatile. I like Minka Fitzpatrick at Alabama. He can do some things. I don't think he's as strong as a corner, but I just think I'm just the most versatile. I could play nickel. I could play safety. I can play corner and shoot. I can even linebacker if you needed me to. So it's just like the thing about me, I'm just very versatile. I can do a lot of things, and I love to tackle. I mean, I don't miss very many tackles. I love to tackle, and just the man coverage ability to be sticky on somebody. I didn't see balls until maybe the third or fourth quarter because they were so scared to go to my side this year. So it was just saying, I got a guy like Marcus Davenport on the D line that made plays, but it was a lot of times, he got coverage sacks because guys like me was holding up for him, and he'd get back there. So I think that's a lot of things people should definitely start looking at on film, just seeing how the quarterback went one way and then he had to go the other way, and by then it was over. He was getting sacked. So it's just the man coverage ability and versatility. That's the main thing.
Yep, absolutely. Well, I was going to say Marcus Davenport. I got some film sent my way on him, and I was watching it, and I'm looking in some of the seconds that were going by. I'm looking at the tape, and I'm like, man, that coverage is like you said, it's pretty solid back there. This guy's getting a coverage sack, which is fine. I mean, it's a great duo. That's how teamwork is, and that's how a defense works. And he's an exciting player. He's an explosive player as well. So UTSA is really coming a long way and got some talented players, and you are definitely one of them. And I think you are a draftable prospect. And really the last thing I have for you is, when your career is over, what will people say about you and your career and kind of how it all ended up for you?
Initially, they'd be like, "Oh, it came from a small school and stuff like that." But I'm one of those guys. I want to be the best to ever do it. I so hardly mean that from the heart. I want to be the best to ever do it. I'm gonna put the work in to do that, and I just want to be the best to ever do it and be a guy that they said gave back to charity, gave back to where he came from, and never really changed up. So. That's the kind of person I am. I want to give back to the people, that's living in shelters or don't have a lot. those things are big in life. I think people, get there and they forget kind of where they came from and, kind of the stuff they went through at a young age. So that's mainly the two things that I wanted to accomplish when it's all said and done.
Right. Well, that's awesome, man. I think you're gonna make things happen. I can't wait to see your story unfold. Do you have anything else you got for me or anybody else out there listening?
Oh no, thank you. I just appreciate you having me on the show and all your help, and can't wait to show everybody what I can do, and I definitely feel like I'm the best corner or most versatile player in the draft, and I'll keep continuing to prove it every day.
Absolutely, man. Keep grinding. For Devron Davis, I am Russell Brown, and this has been Cover One, the podcast.